Welcome to F9 Galaxy, and what you heard there was just one of 15 demos that's called Grammy. What is F9 Galaxy? It's essentially a huge and immensely useful upgrade to Ableton's internal sound library. This pack is fully compatible with Ableton Live 12 onwards, standard or suite editions. And in this video, I'm not only going to take you through as many of the features as possible, but I'm also going to dump as many tips as I can for Ableton Live. F9 Galaxy by default installs into the packs area of the Ableton browser. Let me talk you through everything that's inside. This first folder, number 1, contains the huge collection of drum kits, which are organized by type. For example, we've got the classics here. More contemporary kits like the Grammy one you just heard. And kits orientated to the dance floor. Now you'll notice here there are 2 entries for every drum kit. The first one, these ADG files, are actually the drum kits themselves, and they contain all of the patching information. You can drop them onto any instrument channel and they will load as a drum rack, a nice collection of macros and some presets. However, if you take the ALC files, these are quite special. They are a mixture of MIDI sequence data and of the programs themselves. So here, let me take this progressive house kit and drop this onto a blank channel there, and you'll see not only does the kit load, but the sequence data too. Now, if I solo this loop and click on the cell, you'll see another collection of macro controls for that individual cell pop up, as well as the loop itself. All of the loops that we've used in the drum kits are pre-warped, and that means they will completely track to tempo. So even though I've got 2 loops playing here, they will track to tempo changes. After the drum and effects patches, which we'll come back to later, are the multi-sampled instruments, like this collection of analog multi-sampled basses. All will load into Ableton's instrument channels with a full complement of macros and a collection of macro variations that can alter the sound of the patch dramatically. As this installs as a pack, if you turn this icon on, you can hear audio previews for any of the patches. For a lot of the analog patches, we're using raw, multi-sampled analog waveforms that we're then processing with the filters inside of Ableton. That gives you full automatable control, like this acid patch. But it's not just synths. We want this to be like a modern workstation. Check out these guitar patches. It turns out the Ableton filters are amazing at wah. And in these patches, the wah is controlled by the Modwheel. These mono patches are playing legato, whilst the polyphonic patches play chords. I always knew building F9 Galaxy was going to be a huge job, and as part of it we actually built this web-based drum machine that can help us prototype the kits and this batch processor for Ableton Live. I want to show you some of the string and brass patches now, so I'm going to move to this demo project called Shaolin. Sfz is an acronym for an Italian term, which means a sudden, quick accent. Now that's often followed by a sudden drop in power in terms of timbre as well as volume, and often in brass arrangement then a kind of build up to this emotional crescendo. But we've also added a completely separate staccato short brass sound for that instant accent. You'll hear that you've got a nice paddy brass sound that opens up when you push up the mod wheel. Now, if I add some staccato to the front of this, and that will give you a really controllable brass patch, as shown in this section here. So we can program in these brass chordal builds and then have the filter fairly open for these more stabbed parts. So as you can hear, you've got a really controllable brass patch there with a degree of bite from that staccato additional sample layer. We've done a similar thing with the strings. This is the Prague strings patch. And we've got an arco patch here, which is an Italian term for a fairly fast and a bowy string sound that we can dial in. And as you hear, these are voiced to cut through on modern productions. And I'm just going to dip the arco for just this one chord here in the middle. Let me give you a perfect use case scenario. Let's say you want to work at 124 BPM and you've got an idea for a bass line. I'm looking for something a little bit retro in this example. I'm going to make sure I'm on the Packs tab, then come up to the Galaxy Toolkit Deluxe and twirl it down. All of the fun starts in the racks. Classic machines and retro kits, that sounds kind of what I'm after. I'm going to come down here and I'm going to have a look at the Naples Italo kit. Now, I could just drag this ADG, which is the Drumkit rack file, straight onto an instrument track, but I'm actually going to grab this .alc file. This is an Ableton clip, and it contains the MIDI sequence information as well as all of the Drumkit data above. Now I'm quickly going to start arranging. What I'm going to do is take these drum fills and kind of spread them out. So let's just loop that first part, split this one and do the same there. So I've just basically turned that little loop into a nice little sequence and glued it all together. Now the snare's a bit long for me, so I'm quickly just going to pop in here and come down and see which snare is being triggered. That's snare 1, so I'm going to double click on that drum cell. And here's the drum sound. On many of the drum kits, we can control the length of this purely just by taking the sustain and dropping the decay. I want it a little bit longer, and I've got Ableton Suite, so what I can do here is change the curve of the decay. Many people don't know you can do this. You can click on the top here, turn the simpler into a sampler, come to the envelopes here, and if you click just above where it says decay here on the amp envelope, you'll see that the slope will change. So what I can do is, let's go the other way. And by tweaking these two parameters, I can get exactly that decay that I fancy. And one last little tweak, I'm just going to make sure I'm on that snare drum and just going to drop it a little bit. And maybe give that drum sound a little bit of glue compression. I'm going to turn my sound previews on and then come down to the basses. I want analog basses, and one of the sounds I've just checked out is this. So I'm going to load that up. I'm going to bring the oscillator spread down quite a lot and try to record a bass line with the latency caused by the screen capture. Quantize that right up. And sort this end out. I've got these fantastic 2 little Max for Live devices that I found from Elizabeth Homeland that will allow me to recolor all of the parts to the track colors that I've designated and rename them nice and quickly. Now let's loop around this bass line. I'm going to extend that almost to the end. And now we're going to start to do something clever. All of Ableton's devices are MPE compatible by default. And one of the beauties is for bass lines, that means per note pitch bend. Let me show you what I mean. Let's take that one. I'm going to draw this down. Let's go to about a 7th actually here. Even further. Just going to extend that note so you hear more of the note that it bends up to. I'm going to come over here. This is the beauty of MPE. Switch to the MPE tab, click on the note, you get the graph. We can then bend it down to that. Now, if you hold down the command key, which I believe is Control on a PC, you will get quantized amounts. And that means you can 100% guarantee it's going to the note that you want to. I just want this one to flip up. So up we go, and let's take it all the way from there. Now, obviously, you can do this with pitch bend, but you have to know your pitch bend values, and you have to know how far the instrument is stretching in terms of pitch bend, because most are defaulting to 2 semitones. That makes it very difficult to do these kind of per note glides that you can see here. Perfect inside of Ableton and MPE, which is fully enabled for all of our instruments. Now, here's a little tip to do with Ableton. Many of you, I'm sure, know the sampler incredibly well, but let's just come to the controls here. Now, you'll notice by default this area goes to the amplitude envelope. If I click this pitch button here, you then get the pitch envelope. But no information is initially provided. If you click the pitch envelope on, then not only do you get the pitch envelope, but you also get controls over the pitch bend range of the instrument, which is set here to default to 2, but also the per note pitch bend that is available in the MPE editor. I'm going to add some muted guitars here, so I'm going to pick up the Strato muted guitar from the guitar section. And again, apologies for the playing, the latency is dreadful. Let's bring all that in time. I'm not quite getting what I want out of either the slapback or the triplet delay here. So what I'm going to do is just actually open the rack and let's find the delay. It's in a rack called Run Like Hell, and I'm just going to flip that from triplet to 16ths. So I'm going to add some chords now. Let's have a look at the synth polys, and I like the sound of this one. The initial sound's nice and warm, but the third preset's a little bit pluckier. So let's add a few little staccato keyboard stabs in here. Now, maybe something a little bit bigger. And I like how bright it is, but what I do want to do is have this kind of feeling like it's in the background. And the first thing to do to make anything feel like it's more in the background is do what nature does and bring the top end down. Anything that's far away from you is less bright. Layering synths is all about contrast. So to stay away from the sharp attack of the first poly that we've put in, I'm just going to increase the attack on this one. think it's time for a little bit of sidechaining. So what I'm quickly going to do is create a sidechain trigger. Just going to nip straight up to the first MIDI track. I'm going to come into the drum menus, and I'm actually going to grab closed hi-hats. There's a very good reason for this. Most of the time it's kick drums, but I find with closed hi-hats you can tailor the release for sidechains quite well. I'm just going to come in, pick any old hat, and all I'm going to do is just create a 4/4 trigger that I can then copy across. Now here's the trick. I'm just going to take this off of the main bus. Therefore we can't hear it. It's in solo. If I flip it back, you will hear it again. And we can now pick that up as a perfect sidechain trigger. Going to call it sidechain and also the track sidechain. And I always like to color all of those elements in white. Going to loop it down here, making sure it's the correct length, and just pull it across. Now there's a reason why I'm triggering an actual sidechain like this. It's because if you come down to the options that are available in Ableton, so for example come here and we have the arrangement track controls, we have track options, and this opens up a few little extra options and it allows us to pull tracks back in time. So in other words, just ahead of the beat. And it's really useful sometimes to have a sidechain trigger that's a few milliseconds in front. So here we go, our lovely compressor. Now I have a preset stored in Ableton that reverts to the old Live 8 compressor, and there's a very good reason. They changed the compressor's response in Ableton Live 9, but we've always found, a few of my friends and I have always found that the FF1 setting on the old Live 8 compressor doesn't click when you're sidechaining. So here I've got it on the pads. Now if I hit upgrade, hear those clicks? Much smoother on FF1 mode. Have you noticed something? I've hardly had to EQ any of the sounds that I've added. All I've done is a little bit of filtering on some of the individual elements, and they are already gluing together nicely. So here's where we are with just a little bit of touch up now on the master fader. Don't forget that, as always, there is a full manual inside. It goes into a great number of details about all of the different elements of the pack, how you can use them, how to set them up, provides a whole series of hints for using these. And for the first time, we've translated them into German, Spanish, French, and Italian. If you ever need some support, come to the bottom of the manual and click on the support link, and it will automatically generate an email in your email client. That was just an example of some of the amazing things you can get out of the drum kits and the percussion. As you can hear, we've got a fully multi-sampled round-robin timbale set. We also sampled them just tapping the outside of the cases, which are great for just adding some additional percussion interest. Shakers. Bongos. And a wonderful set of multi-sampled round-robin congas. And also, don't forget, in the drum racks, you've got the percussion and breakbeat loops. I've just got one quietly laid underneath this already busy percussion bed. And I've pulled in a vinyl grunge instrument just to add some atmosphere in the background. In fact, I might actually detune it slightly. Here's all the percussion by itself. and with the kit. Inside the Galaxy Toolkit Extras folder, in the first folder you'll find Drumkit Demos. And of course, don't forget the awesome collection of breakbeat and percussion loops. This video is starting to get long, so let me quickly play you through some of the other projects you may not already have heard. If you're ever wondering how we put these demos together, I often work here at the studio with vocals. These are normally my own personal recordings, but this amazing one I can play you. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you love Galaxy. Don't forget to check out all of the rest of the videos we're going to be doing on this incredible pack. I'll go into details of some of the projects. I'll talk about how we actually got some of these sounds and how you can use them in your workflow. All the very best from us. Take care and we'll see you next time.